I learned so much about myself watching that film, the way that she tied it into my life and the experiences that I had in my career, and bringing all those elements together.
Congratulations on such a moving and truly powerful film. I really just wanted to start by focusing on the decision to tell your story in this way, in this documentary format. Of course, we know you already have such a successful book that told your story, but what about this format was enticing to you?
When I wrote the book, which is many years ago, I wrote it with another author, and they were wonderful and very helpful, and they got me, pretty much. But it was in a way where this film does more, because I'm on screen telling the story on film, knowing that it would be more visual, it would come across more clearly about who I am, where I come from, and why who I am the way I am.
And I think, too, there's such an interesting way that the film uses timeline. We start right off the bat, really, with your historic Oscars win, of course, for Children of a Lesser God, which you became the first deaf actress to win an Oscar, but also the youngest actress to win as well. And I found it fascinating that instead of just starting from the beginning, which we do get there to your childhood, we start at this moment, and then we get to revisit it at different times in the film with more context about you and what you were going through. So talk to me about that too, and telling your story in this way that isn't linear.
The way that you saw the film, the way she structured the timeline from the Oscars, then going back and forth and back and forth, but the way that she structured the timeline, she got right to the point to talking about how the media, as well as people out there in the community, perceived me at the time, where I was really not clued into it because I didn't understand how I was being treated. I'm not talking about all media, but in particular the media were the experiences that I had with people who were asking me questions at the time. It's really amazing what happened. I was young, I was naive, and I really wasn't in the know 100% how they were treating me until I actually saw the documentary and had a chance to revisit that. And I learned so much about myself watching that film, the way that Shoshana structured it, the way that she framed it, the way that she tied it into my life and the experiences that I had in my career, and then reinforced it with how the deaf community treated me and how we've been treated in general, and bringing all those elements together. Every time I watch the film, I learn something.
You start the film off with this huge historic Oscars moment. Then we keep coming back to it after we have more context, after we know more about her, as she's reprocessing these big moments as well. So talk to me about that approach too, in terms of, you could have just started this right from the beginning of childhood to the end. What made you take that approach as well?
I wanted to go through like a figure eight in a way, because I think that's really what a lot of us do. Life is linear, it is, but the way we process it, it's not. We often have to process the same thing over and over again in our minds and in our bodies to understand, oh, that's what really happened. But with her Oscar win, Marlee's Oscar win, I wanted to show how much, no offense, hearing people do miss, because they are just relying on sound. And so when it's so celebratory in that room, in the sound mix, we made sure to pull out those specific sounds so that you could hear people cheering. We elevated all those noises so people feel like, wow, what a great moment. But it's because they're not listening. They're not looking with their eyes. And I remember when I was 7 and I saw Marlee win her Oscar, I remember watching on TV and thinking, no, there's something in Marlee's face. There's just something in her expression. For her to be brave enough to finally come out and release in her book what had actually happened, that's what I had been feeling when I saw her win the Oscar. And I wanted to make sure that the audience could see the story again, but listen differently, listen with their eyes, to have that realization, oh, all of her experiences have been happening right in front of our eyes, which a lot of things now are out in the open. The abuse happened, it was in the open. They were in front of the public eye. Oppression also happens out in the open. Discrimination happens out in the open. And a lot of times we just try to claim that we don't know that it's going on.
When I watch, I think, okay, I was forced into being the face of accessibility, that I really wasn't prepared or in the know. I necessarily didn't have the experience that I could talk about accessibility. All I wanted to do was to talk about closed captioning. That's all I wanted to talk about because I loved watching films and television. And then everything blew up from there. I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I would understand what they were trying to do and what I was trying to do too. What happened can't happen again. How it happened can't happen again. But it's still going on. It's still going on. We're still being manipulated. It's an oppressive feeling. It's using the excuse of, well, we just need to be educated and we are asking questions, but we're still trying to explain or educate, still at this point, but it doesn't seem to be making an impact. So hopefully this film will be able to make that impact and people go, oh, okay, this is what's been happening.
The film also tackles some heavy topics in your life and, of course, abuse that you endured with your ex. So talk to me, and I know you did a lot of that work through your book, but what about this process again, being able to look back on that time and not only how that affected you, but when you finally did get to tell your story through your book, how it affected maybe your family or how being able to speak out in that way?
Actually, when I wrote the book, it was up to me how much I wanted to reveal. As far as the film goes, Shoshana made it clear not to really dwell too much on my experiences with domestic violence and sexual abuse. Yet at the same time, it was up to me. She allowed me to talk as much as I wanted to talk about or share as much as I wanted to. In all honesty, in all truth, deaf women in general do experience domestic violence. The situation is quite urgent for them, and they need help. As far as my drug abuse goes, and talking about it in the film, I decided to become sober, as I indicated, and that's the best gift I ever gave myself. And I've been sober for 38 years. There are deaf people out there who probably that people don't know that need rehab, that need help. There's almost none in terms of services available for them. So I chose to talk about these two issues because I knew that it's happening out there, that people needed to be clued in on, that people out there perhaps could have the power or the money to set up programs for them or shelters for them. There are shelters, there are help, there are organizations, but they are few and far between. I want more.
There's that one particular moment, I know, when you did choose to go to that center, how you had to pay for your own interpreters there. You didn't expect that, of course. It's the place where you would go to get help.
You know, it's funny, at the time when I was at the Betty Ford Center, I thought, okay, this is what I need to do. I had to choose my battles. I needed rehab. I needed the interpreter. So what am I supposed to do? So I did ask, look, can you help pay for the interpreters? And they said no. Again, I asked, I think 2 or 3 or 4 times. I had to pay for my own access, which is ridiculous. But that's going on every day. We have to pay for our access. Why? Do we need to pay for the ramps for people who have mobility issues? The cities have no problems paying for that. The little sound that they make when you cross the street for people who have visual issues, they pay for that. Why can't they pay for our interpreters? A lot has to do with the Americans with Disabilities Act, knowing that it's up to them to be, to make schools accessible and medical facilities accessible. But a lot of people are still not in the know. We have a lot of work to do.
What does this next chapter look like for you?
The next chapter for me is, first of all, personally, watch my granddaughter grow up. She's 14 months old, and she's really a beautiful presence in my life. She gives me the opportunity to watch someone grow. And I have 4 kids. I've always busy, sort of maintaining and helping, and so proud of them, all 4 of them. But because Brooklyn doesn't live with me, I'm always looking forward to seeing her again and be able to, it's just 20 minutes away, but I feel like I'm there to help her see what she's learning, to watch her growing again. It's so nice to be able to watch from a distance. And she loves me too. But on a professional level, in terms of the next chapter, I don't like to talk about it because I don't know what it is that's going to happen. When I have something, then I always am eager to talk about them. I'm very excited, but at the same time, I'm sure it applies to a lot of actors out there. When you're working, you're thinking this is great, but then you're also thinking what's going to happen next, and you get concerned all over again. But as we speak, I'm just waiting on answers. But for now, I'm focused on the documentary and promoting it and encouraging everyone to see it.